Week 14, it's in the books. We just enjoyed Rams, Seahawks.
We did.
The Rams really figuring it out against a really bad defense. We'll talk about that in a second. But there were a couple of games here. And we're going to talk about a couple of the games from today, and then we'll get on to Week 15. But remember last year, this is what reminded me of. Remember last year when the Rams and the Chiefs played, and it was like offensive explosion. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. Everything was great. It was Booger. Witt was still there. Yeah, remember that? And then all of a sudden, like,
those were good times.
The offenses just started to kind of like wane down the end of the season. It's Week 14. The Niners and the Saints just put on an offensive performance that was blissful. And it has me excited because this could mean that we get the offense that we deserve down the stretch.
Yeah, the total on this game, 44-45 by the time it closed. That was basically over. Actually, I mean, we were at 55 points by the time halftime hit. Both quarterbacks in this game threw for exactly 349 yards. We also had another 35 yards and a touchdown through the air for Emmanuel Sanders as a passer. So there's 10 combined passing touchdowns. It was one for the ages. The interesting thing was,
by the way, the over 44 was our lock of the week.
Yeah, it was our lock of the week.
Finally got off the schneid.
And all of the derivatives too. So like first quarter over, first half over, and there were other games that went over one of the halves. This game was a complete an utter sale from that perspective. When you look at this game from the spread perspective, obviously we like the Saints. And I think that was one thing that could have gone either way, right? I mean, I was watching the game, and I remember just like yelling at Traquan Smith, saying, "You're scoring too early here," because they left basically a whole minute and 3 timeouts on the clock for Jimmy G. They missed the 2-point conversion. Drew Brees kind of fluttered the ball out there, and despite that, San Francisco is still faced with a 4th and 2. Deep in their own end, and honestly, if a Saints player just pushes George Kittle out of bounds or something, or at least tackles him, I mean, by the time the face mask had happened, he was like at the 40, and he drags a guy with his face mask all the way down to the 30, and then you get the half the distance to the goal. So it was really an epic play by an epic player in George Kittle. Best tight end in the game. I don't think it's that close. I think it's close. I mean, because I think Travis Kelce.
No, it's not anymore. I'm sorry. I know you love the Chiefs.
But there's priors matter. So a guy who's going to be the only tight end in league history to go 4 consecutive years with 1,000 yards, I think is at least in the conversation because he's not slowing down.
He's number 2.
He's not slowing down though.
He's number 2. It's okay.
I mean, I guess I'd have to look at the wars. I mean, I knew that
was going to trigger you. But that's not really the point of this game. The point of this game, and I thought it was a big one, was that the Niners won a game offensively. And it actually mattered for both teams because the Saints won a game offensively too. And that is huge for both teams. People have been talking about how the Saints' offense has been slowing down. Drew Brees has been struggling to get the ball down the field. He did not in this game against a defense that everyone thought was very, very good. And the Niners came out, and all that the broadcast could talk about was how they run the ball and all this stuff. They came out and threw the ball. And they established their physical presence by throwing the ball, and then the run game was set up, which you love to see. They ended up getting 100 yards before contact on the ground after starting the game by lighting it up through the air. That's about 4 per run, which is awesome. Like if you that's almost kind of like throwing the ball, right? 4 yards through the air per completion. The NFL average on yards before contact is about 2. They got about 4. Really, what I'm trying to say is that I think right now, the reason the Niners are a Super Bowl contender, it's not their defense, it's their offense. Like Kyle Shanahan is amazing as a play caller. Yeah. Jimmy G is playing a lot better than he did at the beginning of the season. And they have playmakers.
Well, the point is that defense doesn't matter that much. We're going to have Josh on the podcast this week, and we'll talk about that. But the thing is who gives a crap if your defense is good? Let's say Garoppolo doesn't finish. I mean, well, in all honesty, there was a drive where they didn't finish, and then New Orleans bailed them out with an illegal contact. Yep. There was, And frankly, if he misses the 4th and 2 play, right? Like, who gives a crap how good your defense was coming in there? First in yards per play, first in PFF Massey, and New Orleans just like dump trucked them all up and down the field. Frankly, probably would have been worse had Jared Cook not gotten injured on his second of 2 long touchdown catches. And that's the point. It's you have to score in the NFL, and we're seeing that. Even like you look at the New England Patriots against the Kansas City Chiefs today, and it's like, The Chiefs' offense didn't play all that well, but they played good enough to score enough points, and New England's defense played fine for that, for facing the Chiefs, but their offense couldn't score, so you can't win. So obviously it remains to be seen whether Garoppolo can continue this, but the last bunch of weeks have been very encouraging, for him, and second best tight end in the NFL. Deebo Samuel is like a terrific rookie. And Emmanuel Sanders came to play today at 157 on 7. So it was just a really good game all around. The interesting thing I want to point out is that Shanahan's a terrific coach. The Niners appear to be a very well-run organization. We always talk about there's flaws with all these teams. To me, they spent a significant amount of money on Tevin Coleman, right, and he got 3 carries today. The guy that led their team basically running the football was Raheem Mostert, who is like a special teams gunner guy. So
they're an excellent example of why running backs don't really matter. Jerick McKinnon paying dividends.
Latavius Murray 7 for 69 today. You hate to see it.
Last week, the Niners were impressive in a loss to the Ravens. The Saints, to me, are that team this week. Like, I was impressed by the Saints in a loss, and I don't think we should all of a sudden write them out. So, the legit question: best team in the NFC?
That's a good question. I would say you have to go with the 49ers now because they, there was everything stacked against them in this game. They turned the ball over. They got one back, but they turned the ball over in this game. They were facing probably the best home field advantage in the NFL. They got Drew Brees' best game in a calendar year. They had the ball backed up at the end of the game, so on and so forth, and they got it done. And and they also had players injured. D4 left the game, and he's one of their key pass rushers. So they overcame quite a bit. There was nothing fluky about this win. Mm-hmm. I think the New Orleans Saints, though, are a significant contender for the Super Bowl. So it doesn't do anything for me to knock them out of this team's for real situation. It's just, if I had to choose, I would say San Francisco out of these two teams. It's not like, for example, New England. Like, New England's losses over the past few weeks has me saying they're in a different class than Baltimore. They're in a different class probably than Kansas City. New Orleans and the San Francisco 49ers are in
clearly the same class.
It's in a coin flip game should it go to a playoff game between the two.
Do you put anyone in that class with them? Because I don't. I don't. And to me, it's the Niners. And here's the reason it's the Niners. The way that Kyle Shanahan draws up and calls plays gives me more hope for them to win games where not everything goes their way. And with the Saints, I think there is a little bit of that offense that is less explosive than the Niners. And they have, I think, actually, this is crazy because they have Kamara and Thomas, but they have fewer playmakers on that team. Like the Niners with Sanders, Kittle, and Samuel, and their run game is a legit explosive run game. Like they try and set up huge runs. So
no, the thing that the Saints have that I think is the Saints, I think Latavius Murray is worse than Mostert. And I think Kamara is a better player probably than any of the backs on that team, but he's not playing as well this season. Thomas is better than anything the Niners have, but you go down the list a little bit, and the Cooks and the Gins, they surprise you with brilliant play. They're not consistent. Whereas I think you have to consider Deebo Samuel and obviously George Kittle and Emmanuel Sanders as consistent performers in that offense. You throw in Kyle Juszczyk, who.
Makes that offense go.
Yeah, makes that offense go. It's a terrific unit. So this was honestly, and we're going to look to next week's slate. This is honestly a treat, and it's going to have to be like we're going to have a fast this week. It's going to have to last
a cleanse. We'll rewatch this game next week and remember the points.
Unfortunately.
Let's move on to the AFC side of the game of the week because your Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots had a very interesting game in Foxborough. Did this game change your opinion of the AFC drastically?
No. I mean, the only thing that it did because I got to be consistent here. If I'm going to say that defense doesn't really matter that much when I look at the New Orleans Saints versus the San Francisco 49ers, I have to come back and say it doesn't, even though I obviously am a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. I look at their performance today defensively and I say, okay, all I know is that they can play well against a crappy offense. We talked about this on the pod last week with Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh's a good enough defense to make a terrible offense look bad. And I think Kansas City right now is a good enough defense to make a poor to average offense pay for it. They weren't quite that good last year, so there's an improvement. But when I look at the AFC, I still think, okay, if Kansas City lines up and plays Baltimore, like, they better freaking score 45 points or it's going to be a slugfest for them like that. So today's game doesn't really change my mind. It actually puts a little bit of doubt in my mind about Mahomes and that offense because they were healthy. I do know New England's defense is considered good, but they did a lot of things that really tilted me today in terms of like they took their foot off the gas. Mahomes was not efficient throwing the ball down the field, so on and so forth. It was not, so good win for Kansas City, but ultimately speaking, like, I still think it's Baltimore's conference.
Yeah. What I think this did for me was reaffirm that there's a tier of 2 in the NFC and there's a tier of 1 in the AFC with Baltimore. And I think New England and Kansas City are in a tier of 2 right behind them. And maybe I'm forgetting a team. I don't think I am. But I do think both these teams can beat Baltimore. It's just that they have less room for error because of some of the weaknesses on their team. Yeah. Kansas City didn't do anything in the second half, and the Patriots have gotten to the point right now. I'm not saying this is a reason to bail on them because I do believe they'll figure it out, but they're legitimately we need a trick play to score offense at this point. Like that, and they realize it.
It's the Jim Miller Bears.
And they really blew this game. I mean, they had knowing that they have a poor offense, not going for a 4th and 3 in the first quarter, that field goal was then ultimately blocked, was an absolute disastrous blunder. I can't believe that Belichick didn't go for it there. They then used the challenge on the spot on Kelsey on that 3rd and 4.
No, it wasn't the Kelsey. So the Kelsey challenge was fine, I think, but it was the penultimate challenge where Sammy Watkins caught the ball.
Sorry. Yeah. I was right in saying that it was Kelsey on the pass interference. Yeah,
and that was so they challenged the pass. Okay.
So remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So Watkins catches it, and they challenged that there was pass interference on
when
Kelsey.
Kelsey stuck his ass out and tried to hit the.
Yeah,
but
which could have made him more valuable than George Kittle, but. But that was a really bad challenge because then at the end of the game, you expect there to be something that you need to challenge for, and there were 2 plays: the Harry touchdown, and then the pass interference at the very end of the game.
The Harry touchdown, the Harry non-touchdown, cost them an opportunity to tie the game at the end because they would have been down only 3, and any of those 4th downs would have been a conversion. Although it's sort of weird because the first Brady run on the 4th down, that field goal was long enough where Nick Folk might have missed it. You know what I'm saying? So it was interesting there, but. And people were giving me, because I said, you got to keep your challenges, and people were like, oh, that's, they were complaining about the referees, and I'm like, yeah, that's sort of the point, right? Especially like Bill Belichick supposedly knows all of this stuff, and for him, it's like you look at that referee crew and historically that it's a mess, right? Like it's not, so that you can't challenge 50-50 plays like that because the basically, like, not only is the result of the play sort of up for debate, right? Like whether or not you actually challenged one that was incorrect was up for debate, but whether or not they will overturn it condition on whether it was incorrect, incorrect is also up for debate. And so like the benefit structure there is just not big enough. And then again, because you're going to need that stuff late, you're going to need timeouts late because timeouts are not trivial either. After New England, went 4 and out inside the 10, they had no timeouts left to basically, make Kansas City punt again. So to me, it was one of those, yes, of course, the biggest goat here in the entire game is the referees. But your response to the referees matters. You live in the real world.
It was inexcusable in terms of not thinking ahead, which I think the 4th down call and the challenge were indicative of. So that leaves us with Baltimore. And the Baltimore Buffalo game, I think, was sort of what you expected, which is people all of a sudden realizing that Lamar Jackson is a much better quarterback than Josh Allen. Although I thought about this. This was interesting. So you know how the Ravens passed on Lamar Jackson to draft
Hayden Hurst today.
And they drafted 2 tight ends. Do you think they would have taken Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson?
Had he fallen that far?
So, like, say the Buffalo takes Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Or sorry, say Buffalo not takes Lamar Jackson, takes someone else. And both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are still there.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
you don't think so?
They're too.
I think there's a decent chance. I just think it's
I will
interesting
make
to think
a
about.
speculative leap here. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are too smart to invest in a quarterback with those accuracy issues. But here's the thing.
I want to agree with you. I'm just saying, given that they did take 2 tight ends before Lamar Jackson, there's a chance.
So
but
to back up on the Ravens thing, like, you know, we're big fans of what they're doing. Lamar, and there's weather in this game. So the Bills defense is pretty good to the degree that it matters. Lamar completed only 2 passes that were traveled over the middle of over 10 yards in the air. He had 73 yards on 4.3 yards per attempt from a clean pocket, and that included the long touchdown to Hayden Hurst.
It wasn't great.
He had 72 yards from, basically no, that did not include the touchdown to Hayden Hurst, but then he had only 72 yards from a pressured pocket. So he wasn't great, and he averaged less than 4 yards a carry on the ground. So did Mark Ingram. Like, this was not an efficient offense today. They somehow gutted it out. And in fact, Josh Allen had an opportunity to win the game, / tie the game and go into overtime at the end. And he was atrocious. He was just 1 for, oh my goodness, 9 for 37 yards, throwing the ball over 20 yards downfield, and just 2 for 14 throwing the ball over 10 yards down the field. I mean, he's just unbelievably bad.
There was a deep shot where he looked like he wanted to put touch on it, and he sailed it 10 yards past the receiver. But to me, this is my takeaway from this game, which is Baltimore did not play their best game. But Baltimore's offensive scheme relative to Buffalo's really stuck out to me. Like, they were able to do enough things despite the fact that Lamar did not throw the ball well, that he wasn't super elusive in this game, making people miss everywhere. And Buffalo didn't get a great game from Josh Allen, but there was no scheme to kind of rest on. And as a result, at home, they were down the entire time and didn't have the firepower to make up for it. So I ask you this. We've decided Baltimore, they're in a class of their own in the AFC. Are they better, on the same level, or worse than San Francisco and New Orleans?
Same level, but here's the thing I'll amend with that. The difference between the Ravens and the Chiefs is smaller than the difference between the Vikings and whomever and the Seahawks. We
had to get the Vikings in here some way. Yeah.
And the Vikings and the Seahawks are significantly lower than New Orleans and San Francisco, and the gap there is bigger than the gap in the AFC.
Yeah.
I would take the Chiefs over any of those, the third through whatever team in the NFC, any day of the week.
I will say this. I still think if there's one team I don't want to play, it's the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Niners and the Saints are super close, but I think by just a hair, like, if there's one team I don't want to play, it's the Baltimore Ravens. Let me ask you this, though, on the flip side with the Bills. So the Bills still sit in a pretty good position for a wild card. And I know they didn't play well here.
Yeah.
If we look at the wild card situation, what's the wild card team that you're least?
Tennessee.
They're not even in yet.
Yeah, but Tennessee is the team in the AFC that's not going to win a division that I'm the most afraid of.
Interesting.
Because, so the Bills and Steelers play next week, right? There's actually a significant chance that the Steelers beat the Bills. They're both at 9-5, right? Mm-hmm. Tennessee wins against Houston, and then Houston's a wild card team, and then even Tennessee loses, right? But they're basically a game behind the Bills and the Steelers, and somehow they get in ahead of the Bills, right? But Tennessee getting in the playoffs, for me, that team scares me because they're good enough defensively, right? They're not a disaster, and on offense, they're crushing teams right now.
I wanted to say Seattle, but Seattle doesn't leverage their strengths. And while the Titans don't have Russell Wilson, they at least employ the things that make an average quarterback potentially good.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks have not wanted to do that.
Ryan
really
Tannehill, this sounds egregious, but Ryan Tannehill has been every bit the quarterback. I mean, the output of the Titans offense has been every bit that of the Seattle offense during the time that Tannehill has started at quarterback for the Titans. And so, like, if you put Wilson in that offense, I guarantee you he'd even perform even better. But when you look at, like, okay, I'm playing these two teams, and I'm like, Wilson's great, but he's two hands tied behind his back, and Ryan Tannehill gets to do whatever the heck he wants. Plus, he's got Derrick Henry running you over in the backfield. I'm afraid of that team.
I'm with you. I think that's the answer.
As impotent as they were with Mariota, they're the exact opposite with Tannehill somehow, weirdly.
It's so funny. And it makes you really think about some of the schemes and supporting casts that other teams have, because, like, if you can bring Ryan Tannehill into a Titans team that looked offensively inept with a number 2 pick.
Adam Gase figuring out how to develop with his team like 4 wins above replacement every year, but win actual 7 games, but at the same time getting the least out of his talent with like Tannehill was like a mind, bleep I will probably never get over.
Let's talk Monday Night Football real quick.
Oh yeah. Okay. I guess.
I mean, really, because we didn't talk about the Cowboys being awful. And I just want to talk about Monday Night Football to hear if and how the Eagles are going to find a way to look embarrassing in this game. They're going to, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I think this game plays out a lot like today's game in Green Bay plays out, where you have one offense, or you have one. Well, the Giants' defense is nowhere near as bad or as good as Washington's, but you have an offense in like Philadelphia that like has some good players, but there's just something missing the whole game, right? And so then they let the Giants dick around for 3 quarters, and then, oh my goodness, we're in a game. Terry McLaurin snags a one-handed touchdown catch, and now you're a 2-point conversion away from being down up a field goal. I don't, so like the spread here is 9. I would say if we had to lean somewhere, we'd lean Philly, which just makes me
my stomach feels awful thinking about
it. I know, but especially if Daniel Jones was the quarterback, I would be happy with obviously -9 in the over, because I knew that like Philly was just going to get 2 pick sixes or something like that during the game. But I think like Eli's going to turn around and hand it to Barkley 35 times in this game.
Undoubtedly.
And the funny thing is the Eagles are going to say, I see your 35 carries to a running back on early downs, and I raise you 40 more on our side to Jordan Howard, or, if he ends up playing. So I mean, I'll obviously watch this game because I'm a junkie, but like, if I wasn't working in football, I don't know if this would be a rare game. I would be like, I could do without.
I got to tell you, I haven't done this in a couple of primetime Thursday, Monday night games, but I usually, when it's this bad of a game, I fire up the game from the Sunday that I really want to rewatch. So I'll probably be watching Saints-Niners again instead of watching this game. Who would you rather see in the playoffs, the Eagles or the Cowboys? Like, who do you want to make it?
To get in? Yeah. Oh, the Cowboys, easily. Because
Dak's fun. The Garrett thing.
Dak and Amari are good. Obviously, like I honestly, if it comes down to watching running backs, I'd rather watch Zeke than watch Jordan Howard, frankly.
Oh, yeah. Just for the nose earring combos.
Right, the face mask, whatever the hell's going on there. And then the defense has some talent, even though they're not particularly good. And this is all that needs to be said. The meltdown factor will be immense.
I mean, look, I just need Jerry Jones in the box. I need Jerry Jones cam is what I really
Do you remember 2 years ago?
Why don't they have that, by the way? He would be pissed, right? Or would he like it?
I think he'd like it. But the problem is he'd have to like.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, he'd have to like. Oh
my goodness.
Yeah, there'd have to be some arrangements made. But the
Jones.
Do you remember 2 years ago when the Bills played the Jaguars in the first round of the playoffs? Mm-hmm. That's exactly what an Eagles playoff game would look like this year, and I want nothing to do with that.
I'm here for the Seattle-Dallas rematch in Dallas.
The body blows game?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a lot of stuff to talk about. Anyways, we've talked about Monday Night Football for too long. Anything else before we get to games?
Nope.
Let's roll. So week 15, This slate, not great. Let's start with Houston at Tennessee. This is the set of games that I've deemed good enough for us to somewhat talk about.
You love to see that. Okay.
You really do. Houston, Tennessee. Tennessee obviously hot. Houston got roasted by Drew Lock. I mean, pummeled. And I told you this would happen, remember?
You did?
I told you Houston won their Super Bowl against New England.
I know. And we went Cincinnati and got drilled by the we got the push because of the late line move, but yeah. Oh well.
Anyways, what do you have for this game?
I said that Tennessee would be getting 2.5 at home. What did you say?
I said Tennessee would be a 3-point favorite.
And you are actually right. And in fact, you are far more right than I am because Tennessee is laying 3 at home and it's minus 125. So I of course went through my shtick beforehand. I figured that Houston would win a 7-point game. Obviously, that's kind of what Greenline said. Houston would win but not cover. They didn't need to either. And I didn't think and I thought we also talked about Tennessee sort of being in a letdown spot in Oakland.
I know.
That did not happen. Although Oakland hung around for the first half. It was tied at halftime. They put their foot on the pedal at the end there. So those two teams sort of digressed a little bit, and we're seeing that in the line here.
Can I tell you my thought process?
What?
I said Tennessee's a road favorite, which means the market already respects them. My intuition says that the Raiders at home as a road dog or a home dog is a great play. And I'm going to fade all of that.
Yeah.
And so therefore the Titans are going to win this game and they should be favored at home against a Houston team that, you know, they're not as good as everyone thought they were after they beat the Patriots. But I'm excited for this game.
This is a game, and I don't know, and obviously I'd have to look at where we stand in terms of our numbers on Greenline, but this is one like first blush. I get 3 points. I get to root for Deshaun Watson. You might have to sign me up.
Especially if he gets to 3.5.
Well, yeah. If you even with the even money, I'm pretty bullish on Houston bouncing back here. There's some, again, Tennessee, and maybe they're going to bust all these myths because maybe it was Tannehill and that was it. But Tennessee is just a team that I think once I have them figured out, I just don't have them figured out. So, I
mean, we say this all the time, and this is going to be the week that they'll undoubtedly prove us right. Next up, your Kansas City Chiefs are hosting the Enfuego Drew Lock led Denver Broncos.
Oh man, I had Kansas City laying 11.5.
What did I have here? I had Kansas City minus 10.
And it is minus 11. So it's right between where we are. Total on this game, 46. Man, I mean, if I remarked about this in the office as we were lamenting the over in the Kansas City New England game. Kansas City only likes to put their foot on the pedal against AFC West teams.
Yeah.
And mostly a joke, but this could be a game where I see obviously Denver's got some firepower offensively. They got good running backs who are, unlike the Patriots running backs, fast and hit the hole hard and can actually gain yards. So I don't know here about the spread. I think 11's a huge price to lay, but I sort of still, I mean, I can be convinced to bet an over in a Kansas City Chiefs game again.
The spread is interesting to me because I could have easily seen this being, after that Denver performance, less than 10. And I was not super encouraged by what the Chiefs showed in New England. And then here's the other thing. That game that they won with Matt Moore, which we talked about them being able to actually win with Matt Moore, which was ironic because he came in and played. That was all about Joe Flacco being really bad. And Drew Lock is not nearly as bad as Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I think the day of reckoning might end up coming here for one Drew Lock, but maybe not right now.
Chicago, the resurgent Mitchell Trubisky's. You buying in?
No, come on. I tweeted out. I said,
you're not signing him up to that extension.
I was slow to react to Mitch putting up 19 points at home against the Giants, and for that, I'm sorry. Here's the thing: the Bears we need the Bears to lose one more time, and I messaged this to some of my Vikings fans friends. I said, I can see Chicago beating Green Bay this week. I can see them beating Minnesota at week 17 and beating Kansas City in Arrowhead. I can't see them winning all three of these games. So that's kind of where I stand on the Bears. I think the Bears are a formidable bunch at this point. Their defense plays well. Mitch Trubisky, if he runs as much as he did the other night, that offense is somewhat dangerous.
Well, it's not as terrible as it has looked in the past. I have Green Bay as a 6-point favorite.
4.5 for me, and it is 5, a little bit towards Chicago.
Yeah, the Green Bay performance today was not exactly
stellar,
awe-inspiring. They beat Dwayne Haskins kind of just...
Well, we talked about this on the pod last week. We liked Washington plus the 14. It got all the way down. I think it closed at 12 or 11, and they ended up covering that even though they weren't at one point in time. So that was a good get here. What do you think about 5? Do you think the Bears at plus 5 on the road are a good pick, or do you like the over 41?
I like the over 41 more.
Yeah.
The plus 5... I mean, obviously, the side that I like more is the Chicago side. I think.
Yeah.
Right? Because my belief is that people think that the Packers' offense has gotten better with LaFleur because they've won more games, and the numbers would disagree wholeheartedly.
I'm going to say this every single week until the season's over. If you have a Chicago Bears under 9.5, and they are underdogs in a game, bet them against the spread because you can get a middle there if you want, if you so choose.
Why don't you just meet me in the middle?
Exactly. Worked on Thursday night, right?
Yes,
we like Chicago, so
yes, it did. The Rams go to Dallas in a game that the Rams need to continue winning, obviously, to try and get in the playoffs. It'd be really embarrassing if they go from Super Bowl to out of the playoffs for Sean McVay. And Dallas sort of needs to win this game. But again, because the NFC East is literally a dumpster full of
we'll
trash
see what happens
on fire.
We'll see what happens tomorrow night, quite frankly.
Right. It probably still isn't going to matter. They'll still just need to beat Philadelphia, which means they'll come out flat. Dallas is like, they're not, I don't know if on tilt is the right word at this point. They're just like, it's like you bought, I don't know, a dresser or something to put it together, and you just got a bunch of great parts, but they're like all the wrong parts. You got like a really nice car engine. You're like, what do I need this for? Like, I'm trying to build this dresser. And they just don't fit well. Jason Garrett is clearly getting mixed messages from Jerry Jones. Weird. Anyways, I have Dallas favored by 3.
I have the Rams Dallas favored by 1.5. Do you have a spread for this? I don't.
I can find one. It'll probably be pre-Sunday Night Football though, but
I think obviously the Rams were a team. Greenline liked them a little bit on the money line tonight. By the time it all closed out, but I think what did you think of their performance tonight relative to, like, does it move the market, or is it kind of in the band of acceptability here?
So let me see here. This is way early. Dallas 3.5.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so I'm taking the Rams plus 3.5 if that ends up being the opening line. I mean,
yes, I am too, and here's why. I was not surprised by the way the Rams played in this game. I was not surprised that they won, because the Seahawks have no playmakers on defense. They're not a defense. Jared Goff and that offense is one of the best offenses in the NFL when he is confident and has a clean pocket. But the variance is so high because anything short of that, and it turns into like a total disaster. And that happened in this game, right? Like anything short of that, boom, pick 6, see you later. And the Dallas Cowboys, as much talent as they have on defense, like, they don't have anyone that you're just absolutely terrified by. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to turn Jared Goff into the Jared Goff that we've seen that just torpedoes your chances.
They just don't get pressure anymore the way that they did last year, which again puts your defense on an island. And while Byron Jones is good, the other guys, the Awuzies and the Lewises and the Jalen Smiths and the Van Der Esch, when he plays, they're just not good enough. The Rams, so we talk about defense not mattering when the offense is good enough. that Monday Night Football game, they could not have looked worse against the Ravens. True. The last 2 games of defense against Kyler Murray and against Russell Wilson, they've looked awesome. They did not give up a touchdown tonight, and they're the better defense in this game. And I think if the things you say about their defense, about the Dallas Cowboys, they're probably the better offense.
That's what I was about to say. I think they have the better coach. They're the better offense. And we took the Rams in the Super Contest. Like, I thought the Rams in this spot were fantastic. And I think they're fantastic in this spot as well, because the Cowboys are in this weird spot where things don't matter, and yet they're playing with all these distractions.
Yeah, they play tense, even though in reality
they should be playing free.
They should have a free reign to play loose. Here's what was I going to say? So here's another thing that factors in. I think the Rams that don't have a home field advantage against some teams. We saw actually with Pittsburgh going to Arizona today. It was weird. The Dallas Cowboys fans are a weird bunch, but they're not like the travel to a road stadium and create raucous type group. So I do think like the discounting the Rams, actually Dallas is at home, so never mind. That's a bad point. But anyway, Dallas's home field advantage is also not as good either as the average team. So
right.
I do think like if you're getting 3.5 with the Rams, like you should say, okay, do you think the Rams are better than Dallas? Yes. Okay, bet that.
You know what I think it is? So AT&T Stadium is just so nice.
Yeah.
That I don't.
Josh and Tony.
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any. Oh man, I'm in the unfriendly confines. I think it's like, oh, I'm on vacation. This is awesome, and I'm super stoked about it. I have 2 more games, and I think only one of them really belongs on here, but I put 2. Want to convince myself it's a good week. Sunday Night Football next week has been flexed into Buffalo-Pittsburgh, which tells you all you need to know about this week. What do you have?
I had Pittsburgh minus 1.5 going into the day.
I had Pittsburgh minus 2.5.
It is 1.5. So
yeah.
I don't think Buffalo is. I don't think if you're looking at like the old people that do power ratings on the piece of paper, like they didn't change today, right? When you look at Buffalo, and I think the Steelers were the same thing. I think the Steelers, we talked privately. You said Arizona's the fade now, right? Like Arizona can't win anymore. They're a team you want to fade a little bit here. So I don't think Pittsburgh beating them by 6 is going to change anything, right? So I think going in, but Duck Hodges, Ben Lindsay was talking about this. He's one of the highest graded quarterbacks in the NFL last 2 weeks. He's doing what they're asking him to do. I just don't know how they move the ball against Buffalo.
Yeah,
they have to get Josh Allen to make mistakes, and their defense is good enough to capitalize on mistakes. They're a good defense. Both of these teams have good enough defenses to make bad opposing offenses bad. In which case, like that's probably what this game's going to be. It's probably going to be like Bears Rams like 4 weeks ago or whatever that was. It's probably going to be a game like that.
The better quarterback after all that. The better quarterback in this game is Duck Hodges. The one more likely to throw ducks is probably Josh Allen. And Pittsburgh is a real home field. They have very real fans. And they just played a game. Like, I would imagine that playing the Ravens is no joke in terms of what the toll takes on your body. Playing the Cardinals, however, has got to feel like a nice, relaxing time at the retirement community in Phoenix, Arizona. So, I mean, I thought it was 2.5. I think it felt a little high now that I look back on it, but I actually am going to kind of stick with my guns here because I think it's unintuitive.
Well, all the Pittsburgh. Did we have Pittsburgh last week too? I want to say we. Well,
yes.
So both the last 2 weeks we've been on Pittsburgh and we won. And both of them were like, Duck, really?
Yep.
And it's like, well, actually, like, make some, because again, when we talk about defense doesn't matter, it's mostly when 2 really good teams or 2 really bad teams offensively play, you can throw out the defensive end. When it's sort of in the middle, like Buffalo is kind of a middle of the pack to maybe a little bit below average offense. The fact that Pittsburgh's defense is awesome really can elevate itself. We saw that today. They created turnovers. They made stops in the red zone. They really did a lot of things that great defenses do. I'm excited to watch this game just because.
What's the total?
37. Yeah.
That's low.
If you look at like ELO, for example, our number going into the week would say -3 in Pittsburgh's direction. So you're almost completely on here. But Buffalo does a lot of good things, team wide, special teams, obviously defensively, they're very good. So I don't know, man. It'll be a fun game to watch. It'll be hopefully another game.
I hope so.
Tonight's game was a lot of fun because we didn't write a pickup on it or anything like that, and we just could enjoy it. But hopefully that'll be like what it's like on Sunday night next week.
I have one more game in this, and I feel like it shouldn't be in here, but it's Monday Night Football.
Colts Saints. I had Saints 9.5.
I had Saints 7.5.
Yeah, it's 8.5, so it's smack where we are. I was telling you off air, Jameis and the Bucs won their third straight today. They're at 6. We're kind of following that along for obvious reasons. The Colts had 10-point lead twice in the game, and I told you that despite the fact the only time I ever felt like Tampa Bay was not going to win was the series that Jameis didn't play because he injured his hand.
Yeah.
Every single time I had this like weird piece about me that Jameis was going to come back and win because there was nothing that Jameis did out of the ordinary today. It'd be different if he went out there and completed his first 20 passes and the Bucs are up like 28-10 like they were against the Giants or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then he starts throwing picks. But when he throws a pick on the first play of the game and then he throws a pick on the second quarter, and when he throws a pick in the third quarter and the Bucs are still in the game, that's right where Jameis wants you, I feel like. And so then he threw for 456 yards. He's 7 yards behind Dak, I believe, for the passing yardage title. It was pure Jameis today, and it was so great.
By the way, the two passing leaders being, on mediocre teams proves what I've been saying all along, which is that passing doesn't matter and running leads to winning.
Yeah, true.
I hope we get that.
How many yards does the Niners leading rusher have?
Yeah, I mean, they're not a ton.
Yeah.
But it's as a team total.
Oh, team total.
Yeah.
Team total.
We win as a team, we lose as a team.
Look, if Jimmy G would have thrown for 143 yards instead of 443 yards today, it would still been a win.
Understand the establishment. All right, you ready to go through the bad games?
Jeez. Okay, let's
run through them. We're making, thanks to that fourth quarter,
it was quick.
Rams-Seahawks, we're on pace to actually get some sleep, which is
really good. Pumped that Russell Wilson threw that pick too.
Yeah, that was nice. All right. Thursday Night Football. New York Jets at Baltimore Ravens. Woo!
I said 15.5.
What a game this will be. I said 14.5.
And you are, it's 14.5 minus 115, so you're correct. I think I even put 14.5, and then in my mind, I thought the Jets, even though Greenline liked the Jets money line, I actually thought the Dolphins were going to beat the Jets today, and they came close.
They did. Ryan. So Ryan Fitzpatrick has this lateral.
I know, I saw it.
Okay.
It's great.
So I was thinking about this for a second. Do you think that he is that reckless with all the things in life?
Yeah.
So he's cooking dinner with his wife and she's like, hey, can you hand me a steak knife? And he just flings a steak knife at her. It's like he just gets a coffee from Starbucks. He gets an Americano without even looking at it or blowing on it. Just takes a huge chug. He just does all these things.
No, see, that's the thing. I don't think so. I take it back. I think he is probably pretty buttoned up in his normal life. And then he just lets it rip. That's the his when he goes to the work. His time. When he goes to work with that fleece thing.
So do you think the beard? Do you think he takes it off or something?
No, but I think he's probably a really
Are you saying that because he went to Harvard?
No, I think he's probably a really regimented person off the field, and then on the field he's just look, I have the best gig of all time because he's not bad. There's zero expectations out of him. Yeah. It's brilliant. And then he can just go out and have fun, and he's good enough where he's he's not a complete disaster, right? The worst part about Josh Rosen was that he gave a fuck. He cared.
Yeah.
And he psyched himself out. He was terrible. Fitzy's out here just having a great time.
He's like a person that works out and eats healthy so that they can then just go ham when they want to.
Yeah.
All right, that was a funner discussion than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Let's go to New England, Cincinnati. We are on to Cincinnati. That joke was used by Jim Nantz as soon as it was relevant. Good job by him.
Yep.
Very impressive. I have the Cincinnati Bengals getting 14.5 points.
I'm exactly with you. Depending upon where you got it, the Bengals have been 4-0 the last 4 weeks against the spread, but I did not allow that to curb that. It is 9.5 though. Yeah. I honestly don't hate the reasoning here though. The total on this game total on this game is 40.5. There's certainly some correlation there. Dalton played well today, but he threw a pick 6 to completely screw actually covering that spread. The eight that we got actually closed at 6.5, 6. So they did not cover the closing line. But Dalton was fine. He threw the ball well. Tyler Boyd's a good player. Obviously Joe Mixon played well and things like that. But do you trust the Patriots laying almost double digits on the road in this economy?
It's the Cincinnati Bengals, bro.
The Bengals are playing I'm not saying the Bengals are playing well. The Bengals are playing like a representative football team. They're not playing like a 1-12 football team.
We're gonna find out what a 1-12 football team plays like in this game.
Okay.
And here's why.
I'm gonna be a huge Bengals fan this week for my Chiefs to get the 2 seed.
Here's why. The Patriots beat themselves a couple of times today. Belichick beat himself a couple of times today. And I think he's going to be super hard on himself. I think he's going to be super hard on everybody. They're going to come out and they're going to win every single little battle in this game to the point where it's going to amount to more than a 10-point victory.
Okay. Yeah. I see. I can't do it. New England
less than 10? The Patriots. Come on. This is lock of the week material. I'm betting it the second I get home. All right. Which we'd like to make happen at some point. Tampa Bay, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
One more. We need one more, Jameis. One more.
You and our good buddy Timo. He had a brilliant day today. I bet he was just
3 weeks. Dude, watching Jameis is especially watching him back when you know what's going to happen is such a delight.
It really is.
I mean, if you actually need to count on Jameis for something, I imagine it sucks because he's just going to throw. Actually, somebody tweeted out that Office thing where Will Ferrell was cameoing on it. And he was talking about Andy Bernard, and he's like, if you need a guy to get your paper on time, this is not the guy. You need a guy to fill out the forms correctly. This is not your guy, and it's perfect, But the throws he makes are terrific. So I had Tampa Bay 2.5-point favorites on the road here against Detroit going into the weekend. What did you have?
I'm assuming David Blough continues to play.
Yeah.
By the way, no one's gonna have a clue that was an attempt at a Neil accent.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
You got to master the vowels.
Sorry, what did you say?
I said 2.5.
Yeah, I have 3.5,
and it is 4. I figured the Vikings would play a game similar to Green Bay today. And Detroit would hang around and, but that didn't really happen. I mean, Detroit got basically blown out by a Minnesota team that played like crap, but ultimately still beat them by multiple scores. So, and Tampa Bay won.
I immediately now, after Tampa Bay has won this game, feel poorly about liking Tampa Bay in this game. And Detroit at home, Detroit has real receivers. I now,
Yeah, they have no real defense. Here's another. I'm going to say this again. If you bet Tampa Bay over 6.5 wins, and they are a favorite, you can bet the underdog in the game, and you can middle if you want to.
This is free investment advice.
Yeah.
We should do an infomercial.
Yes. Go back in time, bet the Bucks over, and then
that'd be great.
Come back and middle stuff.
All right. Philly goes to Washington. I'm just going to say this right now. I think the Redskins win this game.
I do too. I said Washington would be 7.5-point underdogs at home.
What do I have? I have 5.5.
And it is 6. Oh my goodness. So, because here's the thing. I just said this. Washington's defense is not bad. I mean, they're not good, but they're not bad.
Better quarterback at home getting points.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Come on. Nothing more needs to be said about that game.
Carson Wentz, MVP candidacy feels like it was a long time ago.
It's almost as long as the Raiders' hopes for the AFC West.
I torpedoed them single-handedly.
You did.
With my Josh Gruden.
It's not as bad as me calling their GM Todd McShay.
Could be next year. Who knows? Seattle goes to Carolina. Russell Wilson redemption. I am bummed. The one thing I was bummed about tonight, I feel like I pegged that game pretty well, and I was happy about it, except that I had wished there was more good Russell Wilson play, just because it's fun to watch. And, man, that team is bad to watch when he doesn't make great plays. They are a mediocre team masquerading as a good team because of the great things that Russ Wilson has done. When he doesn't do them, it's horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, speaking of horrific, the Carolina Panthers.
What?
I have Carolina getting 2.5 in this game.
I have Carolina getting 4.5, which is probably a bit steep. I don't see a number
right now.
I don't see a number available.
Let's see what it was early.
Carolina was a team that we did not like going
4.5.
Yeah. So if you
from 5 days ago,
if you were somebody that, one of the reasons why we liked Tampa Bay so much going into the year was also a fade on the rest of that division. And Atlanta and Carolina have been bad in spades together. And I think that they'll continue to do so.
Yep.
So Seattle wins that game, right?
I was just about to say, so Seattle wins that game, but Seattle just doesn't blow anyone out.
Yeah, they don't. Well, somebody's perfect tweet like a little bit ago is that Seattle never plays a normal game. I think it was Kevin Clark, our friend from The Ringer, and
that's a good tweet.
I mean, it's amazing because it's 100% true.
How often a day do you have tweet envy? Does that happen to you?
No, because sometimes you have great tweets, but I feel like the thing about it is if you have an original enough personality, you don't envy the work of others. You appreciate. So when you tweet out something about like fashion or whatever, you make fun of somebody's fashion. I think it's funny, but I never have the feeling of, oh, I want to be that, because it's just, that's you. That's not me. You know what I'm saying? So but there are some people there are some people who tweet who I'm like, that's very clever. That person is always clever when they tweet.
Yeah.
Kevin's good. Mina's good. Josh is good. They're all, you have your days.
Yeah.
Renner's bad except for when he's tweeting me dunking, which is.
Yeah. Or when he's tweeting, when he's sipping.
Yeah.
Your Minnesota Vikings, speaking of sipping.
Oh, my goodness.
Are going to Los Angeles. This was the Sunday night game, and mercifully, it is no longer.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers and Kirk Cousins. Is Kirk Cousins just destined to be Phillip Rivers at some point in the future? I'll hold on. Let me qualify this by saying that Phillip Rivers is like on an infinitely better. He's a much cooler dude.
Yeah.
Much better quarterback. But what I mean by that is that Kirk Cousins is destined to lead a team that never quite gets there.
Yeah.
He's going to end up throwing the ball a ton as an older quarterback, and it's always going to be some like, all right, we go to the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, and Kirk Cousins trying to bring his team back from 10 points down.
Yeah.
That's what I feel his destiny is.
I think they're just, yes, 100%. The problem is Phillip led the Chargers to 14-2 as a rookie, and then again, he's led them to first round buys and stuff. Later on in his career, he's become Kirkian, but early on he had success. Whereas Kirk has always sort of been a 9-7 quarterback, which is probably the best Phillip could hope for now.
This is the longest we've taken to get to a line.
All right, I had Chargers +3 at home.
I had a pick.
And it is +3.
Wow. I guess.
Minnesota is getting a lot of love there. It's +3 -120. So if you want to lay the 3 with Minnesota, you get even money. But I don't know.
Vikings fans travel all the way out to LA.
Yeah, there are a lot of Vikings fans kind of everywhere, but LA has a decent amount of them. Weirdly.
Okay. Yeah, there won't be any Chargers fans there. That I can tell you.
Yeah.
Jacksonville goes to Oakland. I have the Oakland Raiders favored by 3.5 in this game.
Same here. And it is 5.5. People are reacting to the Jaguars going in the tank.
Yeah, but the Raiders have been bad too, man.
Yeah, I think. But the problem is, I think the Raiders. So losing to the Jets is unforgivable, but losing to Kansas City and losing to Tennessee, knowing everything we know, is probably the expected outcome.
Yeah.
And now getting dump trucked by them, having basically one competitive half of the 4 between those two is bad, but I can see this. That being said, this might be a Gardner Minshew betting situation. If it gets out to 6, like it is trending towards 6, if you can get a 6.5, 7.
I agree quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because the Oakland Raiders are bad.
Yeah.
And a bad team playing another bad team probably shouldn't be a 6.
Here's a question that I have, and this might be a reason why I didn't do this, and I didn't think this through. Is this the last game in Oakland? So Raiders schedule here.
It is.
So
they do play their last game.
They play 2 road games right after that. So part of me thinks.
Oh yeah, okay. Totally different situation.
I feel like that. I feel like there's going to be some like juices flowing here. And whereas the Jags have absolutely nothing. Like if these two teams both had nothing to play for, then I could understand being on the Jacksonville side. But like Jacksonville has absolutely nothing to play for. The Raiders technically could make the playoffs, and they could finish the season with a winning record. They
have everything to play for.
They go to Chargers. They go to Broncos. They could finish 9-7 if they really wanted to. And it's the last game in the stadium. I feel like that's enough for me to lay off.
That is a great reminder. I just assumed it was week 17, and it is not.
It is not.
Because
this is the second. I can't remember the Chargers finished San Diego against the Chiefs in week 17, but when the Rams left St. Louis, they left in week 15, and they had 16 and 17 on the road. Yeah. It's such a bad scheduling thing by the NFL. They do a bad job at that sometimes.
You hate to see it. Cleveland goes to Arizona. Battle of the past 2 number 1 picks, both from Oklahoma. Baker versus Kyler.
Yeah.
Thought this would be more exciting. It is not. I have the Arizona Cardinals as a 1-point favorite.
And I had the Cardinals as a 2.5-point underdog. And this is the 3rd consecutive game they've been at home, and they've been somewhere around a 2 and a 2.5-point underdog. They are 2.5-point underdogs to Cleveland. I love the Browns in this spot. Anytime
you just hate the Cardinals,
but it's not even that. It's not even that. To me, it's also like anything that's an impediment on the Browns is going to tank a lot of things. Like to the weather, right? Odell Beckham like gets a cramp when it's too cold outside or something like that, or too warm outside. Indoors, right? Mm-hmm. Against a bad defense. Mm-hmm. Like it's sort of like the thing we were saying about the Rams a couple weeks ago when they were struggling. Put air in front of them and they'll probably do well. I think that's kind of the Browns thing here.
So I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I'd like to remind you that the Cleveland Browns have actually made a career out of taking exactly what you've described.
I know.
And laughing in your face.
I know.
And they are the perfect team to be in an optimal situation and totally blow it. Like, this is the perfect situation for Freddie Kitchens to waddle his way into Arizona and just blow it. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, and I just looked at some preliminary numbers. They're not as heavy on.
They legitimately should have
they should have lost today.
To the Bengals. They were your 1-12 Bengals, which I think says
they had an interception inside the 15 that Freddie smartly challenged, and it got called back.
Your 1-12 Bengals. That said more about the Browns to me than anything else. All right. The Atlanta Falcons are going to San Francisco. And what I think is really interesting about this game is that if the Atlanta Falcons just hadn't made it to the Super Bowl that year, there's maybe a decent chance that and maybe not because Arthur Blank's a loyal guy, but a decent chance that Kyle Shanahan is the coach of the Atlanta Falcons instead of the coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Instead, thankfully, he's the coach of the San Francisco 49ers. And the Atlanta Falcons, despite beating the crap out of the Carolina Panthers, they suck. I have the San Francisco 49ers as a 10.5-point favorite at home against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I said 13.5, and I was a little too bearish on
A little
Atlanta.
steep, huh?
Well, because it's 11. I didn't think Atlanta would I thought Atlanta would pitter patter with Carolina a little bit too much, but this is probably something where if I was not using a model, I would lay the points here right now with the Niners and let this thing get out to 14 and then come back.
Yeah.
I think that ultimately there'll be value on Atlanta, and just because again, it's sort of now the San Francisco 49ers don't have a history of this, but they just won their Super Bowl, right? And so they come home against a bad team. They're going to be laying double digits. And I'm not saying they lose outright, but I'm saying like if you apply the same logic to, Denver, Houston as you will this week, it's probably a letdown spot. That being said,
we have seen them in potential letdown spots.
Let down.
Yeah, just like kind of have a blah game. However, I will say this. They then play the Rams. This is the game. This is their easiest game remaining.
Yeah.
They have to win this game because if they don't win this game, then all of a sudden they're in a real tough spot.
They're in the meat grinder,
right?
Basically, yeah.
And so I think that helps motivate them. And Kyle Shanahan will want to beat his old team.
Yeah, but I agree with that. I agree with all that, but all that was true about Houston too.
But Houston,
I know. Houston's not as well coached and all that kind of stuff. Although Bill O'Brien's starting to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah, but he's also the GM, so that puts him in a tough spot.
That's true.
That is the Week 15 slate.
Oh, we missed one.
We did?
Miami going to New York to face the Giants.
How did I forget that? You hate to see it.
I said the Giants would be 1.5 point favorites.
Miami's on the road.
Yeah.
Where did I put this?
They get to play.
Oh, I did do this game. I just didn't add it to the schedule. I have the Giants as a 2.5 point favorite.
And it is 3.5, which I am going to take the Dolphins.
Yep.
Thank you very
Same
much.
There. You have to bet one game right now.
Dolphins.
Interesting. I like Houston quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like the Rams quite a bit. And I like the Patriots.
Yeah. We're on similar pages here. Here's the thing. I will bet Detroit for the reasons I just talked about. I will bet the Bears for the reasons I talked about. And I'm with you. I like Houston. I, in fact, bet Houston on the look ahead, 2.5. So I am not getting good line value there. And then I like the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins plus 3.5. It's even trending to 4. There is absolutely no reason I'm imagining the Dolphins are staying in New York this week after playing the Jets, if they're smart. And like the Giants, there's absolutely no reason the Giants with a quarterback uncertainty like that should be favored against anybody.
Yeah. I'm with you. Confessions.
Oh man.
Do you have one?
I don't. Well, no, I don't. I mean, I think college football was like a perfect weekend in terms of like there were just enough games to watch or not watch. Mm-hmm. So it was sort of nice in that sense. No, I
you don't have any. You were a perfect human this weekend.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything that would come to mind. So maybe for Thursday I'll talk about a confession.
We'll come up with something.
We'll rope Josh into it as he's our guest. He will.
He better have a story from the Cincy Y or his local Y.
Yeah, the story from the I don't have any stories from the Cincy Y this week either. It was sort of normal. No one told me to get the F out of the way in the locker room. No one tried to fight me. I won a dunk contest against Steve. Although, what was your tweet about when you said like all these people making fun of this person's looks shouldn't be on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. When like Mike posted that video of me dunking and Steve missing a dunk, and everybody's like, "Oh, that was weak." Like, are all these like fat people on Twitter who clearly can't dunk ripping on me? Who's like, granted, I'm not in the best shape in the world, but I'm a mid-30s person who can actually dunk.
You need to, if you're gonna rip on, like I didn't rip on any of your dunk attempts. I'm impressed by them. Yeah. I can't dunk. And even if I could, I probably couldn't dunk better than that. So if you're going to come out there and make fun of you wearing a long sleeve shirt, I saw someone make fun of you for wearing a long sleeve shirt. Shut up.
It shows how much, like my thing about being at the gym is my attire shows how much I take that serious. Like I'm like a casual person.
Yeah.
That's part of the allure.
Yeah, no, I thought it was fine. The fact that you walked out there casually and dunked, I thought was cool. Okay, I have a confession.
Okay.
So I was traveling this week, and I was in Los Angeles for wow, that's great. I was in Los Angeles for 15 hours. So I went out to dinner with my mom. This was her birthday the day before. It's a nice thing that I did. But it was great to see her, and we were having a nice dinner, whatever, and we got to dessert. And I knew that there's an ice cream place, Salt and Straw. We've talked about it before.
Very good.
It's the best ice cream in the world, and it's right down the road. We're in Venice Beach. But the place that we're eating at's also very good. So I'm like, I'll leave it up to my mom. If she wants to get dessert, she can get dessert. I'm not, far be it from me. So they've got a persimmon bread pudding, some crazy gelato flavors. And I'm just yeah, we'll get it all. So I'm sitting there eating this fantastic dessert. And I'm thinking to myself, am I really going to do this? So we eat, we pay, we leave, walk my mom to the car. I'm walking back to my hotel. Ice cream place right there.
You did it. You did it.
Not only did I do it,
you overdid it.
if I'm going to do it, I'm not going to half do it. I went 3 full scoops. As usual, when I do that, I have the people behind the counter applauding me. I have people in line looking at me like, how does this happen? I can't believe it. I have the couple behind me, both getting kid scoops in a cup, which is my personal favorite. Really? Maybe just run a couple extra miles tomorrow, you loser. Anyways, that's my confession. I totally enjoyed it. It was fantastic. The only thing is, I kind of wish I picked 3 good flavors, but I wish I had subbed one for a different one that I was on the fence with.
Gotcha.
Other than that, I feel pretty good about myself.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that's not a bad, you normally eat pretty well, so it'd be different. If
I did this multiple times in a week,
yeah, for sure. You have self-control, and then you have indulgent streaks. So
if you don't enjoy your life, then you're missing out.
I agree.
Anyways, that's our pod. We will be back with you on Thursday with Josh Hermsmeyer, so you'll want to check that out. Thanks, guys. Peace out.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.